So what I took the liberty of doing tonight is, instead of just presenting the same workshop twice, I did a different presentation in the first session, and I'm going to do a second presentation with you now. So that way you get a bit more value, I would say, for what you paid for tonight, and then you get 2 ADHD workshops instead of 1, so I can provide a bit more expansive information for you. So as you know, my name is Jamelia Gay. I briefly introduced myself at the beginning when Deandra called on us. I am an ADHD executive function empowerment coach, and I support adults and children who either have ADHD or need support developing their executive function challenges. I come from an early years background, but I work mostly with adults now because I am also an adult with ADHD. I very recently found out that I do have ADHD, but I have developed a bit of self-awareness over the years, and I have recognized the challenges that I've been experiencing. And I was actually very relieved when I got my diagnosis because it answered a lot of questions for me about why things seemed to be a bit more challenging for me than with other people. So I don't just work with individuals who have ADHD, but I can actually relate to a lot of challenges and also the skills that you have that we don't talk about and celebrate enough. So the purpose of tonight's workshop is to help you unlock your potential and help you to thrive when it comes to ADHD, and remind you that it is absolutely possible to achieve your goals. Success is very attainable and support is available for you. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat just to help you not forget by the end of the session. As someone with ADHD, sometimes you may have challenges with your working memory, and by the time the session is done, you may have already forgotten what the question was. So please feel free to drop in the question in the chat, and then I will either answer them right away if I spot it right away, or I'll get to it at the end. So one of the key questions is, can these strategies still help if I don't have an ADHD diagnosis? And as I mentioned, they absolutely can. So some of you may or may not have heard the term executive function before, but when you do have everyone in the room, everyone on earth, quite frankly, has a set of executive function skills that you're required to be able to get through and thrive in your daily lives. It's just that individuals with ADHD tend to have ADHD traits that more highly affect their executive function skills and makes it a bit more challenging for them to accomplish what they'd like to if they don't have the support that they need to do so. So when you have ADHD, you may have challenges with inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. And your executive function skills that may be challenged, we are going to address it shortly. So, how can I manage as an adult with ADHD? And the first thing that I would say is that you need to learn to water your gifts. And one thing that I spoke about very briefly recently is that we don't praise ourselves enough. And if you do have an ADHD brain, you tend to be extremely critical of yourself. It can be very easy to focus on the negatives. It could be very easy to, feel big emotions when it comes to things that you perceive as rejection. If you are, talking about making moves in your career, or you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for grants and you got a rejection, for example, it can be something that you dwell on as opposed to looking at it as a learning step to help you get to the next level. So learning to water your gifts, learning to reframe your mindset with regards to your executive function skills and how you can turn them into skills that work for you as opposed to fighting your natural inclinations. It can really help you to manage adult ADHD. So some of the key executive function skills affected by ADHD in adults include working memory, attention and focus, task initiation and completion, flexibility, time management, and self-evaluation. And these are just a few of them. There are other executive function skills that we need or that we use to get through the day. But keep note of this acronym just to help you remember which ones tend to affect us more regularly. So, working memory, we already gave an example of that, but what we don't talk about enough is, a bit of that iceberg effect. So, when it comes to being an adult with ADHD and wanting to accomplish your goals, there tend to be the challenges and the behaviors and the negatives that people see or that you see in yourself. And it's really important to look at the other end of it. So there are different aspects or different sides to who you are as an individual in general, and then who you are as an individual and an adult with ADHD. And you want to make sure that you're looking at the whole picture and not just the behaviors and the challenges that are more visible or more prominent or come out more frequently. So, for example, when we're talking about working memory, for me, that's something that I absolutely struggled with, especially when I first started networking and trying to make connections and, meet new people and get my name out there in the field and in the industry. It would be really hard for me to remember someone's name by the time we're done introducing ourselves. Far more trying to remember all of what we discuss while we're having those conversations. But what we don't really know is that when you do have ADHD, because of the fact that we're focusing so hard on what someone is saying in the moment, we tend to pay a closer attention to the smaller details, which helps you spot industry trends faster than your competitors. It helps to benefit your business. It helps with your quick wit, and you tend to have a keen sense of observation when it comes to attention and task initiation and completion. This helps you because you have a variety of interests. So it's not something that you need to fake or mask to try to work that much harder to regulate your focus. It's not something that you need to downplay, but it's something that you can hone in on with regards to how many things you're interested in, what you can do with your passions, how can you prioritize them, and not just start multiple projects, but actually put things in place to complete them. So are you time blocking? Are you making sure that you are setting your alarms? What are you doing to build a foundation to make sure that you follow through with the tasks that you've initiated while trying to maintain your focus on the things that you're interested in? And this can help you develop new projects, events, and ways to take your business or your career to the next level. And then we also see that your content is always fresh. So individuals with ADHD tend to have wonderful, unique, innovative content creation. This helps with your branding, with your marketing as well. And then we look at emotional regulation. So you're there for your loved ones. It's one of your strengths. And you can be very compassionate, very empathetic. So you want to find ways to use this to put yourself forward with regards to business endeavors when it comes to achieving your goals. So this can benefit your networking and your ability to make meaningful connections once you get over the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome, and we can talk about other ways that we can make that happen. And then when you decide with regards to your regulated planning and your organization, I'm sure you may have heard the word hyperfocus a lot. Feel free to put a 1 in the chat if you are someone who tends to hyperfocus, especially when there's a deadline, when it's crunch time and you need to get something posted, you need to start handing in assignments if you are in post-secondary education, or you have your deadlines to get your work out. It can be very difficult sometimes if you hyper-focus only in specific times and specific settings. Yep, very one-track minded, can't multitask. Okay. So instead of fighting that hyper-focus, because again, for people who don't have ADHD, hyper-focus can be very frowned upon, and people see it as a taboo. But again, it's about learning how to leverage your skills and make it work for you. So you actually have a laser focus that helps you to focus up when it's time to focus up, when it's crunch time. Like Devontae said, one track minded. So it's about learning to lengthen that laser focus beyond the deadline approaching stage and put systems in place to plan ahead of time so that it helps you not just to focus on one thing, but to learn how to time block so that you can hyper focus on different things throughout the day and make that laser focus work for you. Another way to do that is by leveraging technology, letting automations, calendars, reminders, and your momentum work for you and work for your business to ensure that things are still happening and your business is still running while you're resting. Okay, and then we talk about, did it click? There we go. So goal-oriented behavior. So this means that you're very ambitious, and instead of generalizing your goals, what I suggest is creating SMART goals so that you're taking that vague element out of it, and now you're making your wants very practical, very specific, measurable, and you're making SMART goals for each of the things that you want to accomplish. And I gave an example of how to create your SMART goals, or how to take your boulder of a goal and make it into bite-sized pieces in the last workshop. So you'll see a real-life example of that when you get the recording. But as adults with ADHD, you can be very creative, and clarity is equally as important. So you want to make sure that when you are creating your content, when you are, putting your ambitions into action, you are accompanying your creativity and your uniqueness with clarity to ensure that you are getting everything that you need to get done. And especially when it comes to your clients, you want to make sure that they are able to understand your messaging. I'm not going to talk specifically about branding because that is not my forte. But when it comes to ADHD, I'll give you an example. So while creating a group coaching program, I was playing around with names, and I came up with this one. And if anybody wants to come off mic really quickly, can you just read it for me, or read what you think it is when you see it?
Before E.
Before E, okay. I'm really happy that you got that.
Great.
Okay, perfect. I'm really, really happy that you got that, because there are other individuals that I showed it to see what the reception would be, and they just read it as before. And you may have gotten it, but there are some clients who may see that as my title and have no idea what I'm talking about. Now, for me, it's about burnout. It's about, making sure that you are achieving your goals with ADHD before you burn out, before your tank runs on E. If you are on the about to get on the highway and you know that your gas is running low, you're going to go and you're going to fill your tank up. So that's the thought process behind this name that I was playing around with. But again, because of my focus on the creative side as an individual with ADHD, sometimes I tend to forget that as a business owner, I need to bring clarity into it to ensure that I'm not possibly losing potential clients because I'm so laser focused on the creative side of things with ADHD. So I want to find a balance between the two. And an alternative for that was building your business as an entrepreneur without burning out. It means the same thing. It's the same message, but I'm packaging it differently, to make sure that creativity and clarity are complementing each other. So I'll go back to the other executive function skills and the other goals. So when we talk about flexibility, so flexibility sounds good enough. It sounds like a word that you use when you're working out, or you use when you're talking about flexibility in the workplace, for example. But when you have ADHD, sometimes your flexibility may present as being a pushover, being flaky, being wishy-washy, because you change between decisions, you change between your boundaries, you change between your processes, whether it's in the house or in the workplace. So what we need to stop downplaying, I would say, is the fact that we're actually adaptable. And chances are the individuals in this room are highly adaptable and more adaptable maybe than your colleagues. So if there is a plot twist, that, like I like to call them, then you're able to adapt and move on, depending on if self-doubt comes into play. And then with time management, so multitasking is something that can work for you if you learn how to make it work for you. So Devontae, for example, said, I can't multitask, and that's absolutely okay. For those of us who tend to multitask a lot, it may come across as the word from before, wishy-washy to some people, because you're starting one thing, you're initiating a task or a project, but it's really hard to follow through and complete that task or project. So many people with ADHD actually thrive and are more productive when doing more than one thing at a time, but it's learning how to balance that. So, for example, for me, I need to be playing music or singing while I'm reading, while I'm writing, while I'm doing research or working on a presentation. I need the stimulation. My brain needs that stimulation, and it actually helps me focus more on the task at hand, and it helps me drown out the noise that is not coming from me. So, all the external stimuli. And then when it comes to self monitoring and evaluation, when you have ADHD, sometimes you can tend to be overly self critical. There are a lot of I statements, I can't do this, I'm not enough, I'm not at that level, I'm not able to accomplish this, I can't manage my household, I will never get to that level in my career, I can't hold a conversation long enough for someone to take me seriously. And it's about changing that into developing a level of self awareness. So you identify your mindset, you identify the behaviors and the habits that have been less effective in achieving your goals, but you're also developing your ability to more easily spot the things that you do really well, to spot your strengths and your skills, and then you actually begin to believe that you can do it, that you're good at things, that you're good enough, that you can accomplish it, and that you can be successful as an individual with ADHD. So I'm going to ask you to drop in your number in the chat again, but I want to see, is this you? Is there anyone in the room who is creative, who is flexible or adaptable, who has, high energy or high frequency, who's able to think outside the box and see things or come up with ideas that other people may not have thought of? And if you relate to more than one, then drop as many numbers as you need to in the chat. And if there's something that's not on the screen, then please feel free to write that down. So I see that Devonte is able to think outside the box. Amazing. All of them. Allison, I love how you're claiming that. Understanding before E. I appreciate that. Devonte. That actually made me really happy. 1, 2, and 3. Keontae, nice. And Hazel, all of them. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope this is a practice that you can continue to do in your daily lives, making sure that each day you are writing down and identifying your skills, the things that you're good at, so you have your arsenal to go to when you need that reminder. And then what I do in my sessions is I help you learn how to take those skills and leverage them to help bring your challenges up to the standard that you want them to be, and to help you with regulation and consistency to make sure that those very attainable goals are goals that you're grabbing in 2024. All right, and the last thing that we'll look at, and if you have any questions, again, drop them in the chat, is just that reminder of your self-confidence. So you want to make sure that your self-confidence enhances your motivation, your resilience in the face of setbacks, your positive social interactions, especially when you're networking, meeting new people, or even how you interact with people in your household, your spouse, your parents, your children. Are you able to regulate your emotions? Self-confidence can really help you achieve that goal, and it helps with improved focus and commitment as well. And remember that your determination is stronger than your doubts. So, if anyone has any questions, feel free to either come off mute or you can write it in the chat. In the meantime, I encourage you to scan this code. If you would like to book your strategy session, you will be getting it for 50% off because you took the time to come out tonight to invest in your goals, to invest in yourself. And I will also put that in the chat for you. Okay, and what I have also done is created a self-reflection guide to identify burnout. I'm going to answer your question. But yeah, your self-reflection guide to identify burnout. So you can scan this code as well, and you will be able to download that. And it's a workbook that you can use just to help you identify if you are approaching or currently living in and experiencing burnout while you're trying to manage your ADHD. I might have missed it, but the slight transparency to solid of the triangles doesn't mean something. Devontae, do you want to come off mute and help me? I'm not exactly sure I understand the question.
Yeah, no worries. In the slide that you shared, there was triangles with the different like attributes on them,
Mm-hmm.
and from like a slight transparency to like a more solid. Did the different type of design mean something?
Oh, okay, I
Like
get you.
was like a spectrum or
Got you. One
did I miss
second.
that?
Let me go back to that slide just to make sure I have the right one and to make sure everyone could see it. Is it this one with the executive function skills?
Yes.
Okay. No, it is just to make it more visually appealing because sometimes individuals with ADHD tend to retain information better when the slides are more visually appealing, instead of having it kind of monotone in the same color, and then it's hard to pinpoint the individual parts of the whole. Good question.
Okay.
You're
Thank
most
you.
welcome. All right, does anyone have any other questions? I think we have maybe a minute or so left. We'll drop
Can you
this
go back to that last slide
with
before the like
the QR code or
just before this one?
the guide?
No, before like the last part of the presentation.
Okay, got you. The
I
self
wanted to
confidence
reread.
one.
Yeah, this one.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. And you're going to get the recording of this as well, along with the recording of the presentation that I did in session A. So you'll have all this information with you so you can replay this anytime that you need to. And then I'm always available for questions if there's anything that you need me to expand on, or if there's anything specific, sorry, that you need help developing.
I have a quick
Mm-hmm.
question. I have a really quick question.
Go for it.
As someone that's very one-track minded and can't really multitask, I find that I focus a lot on one thing at a time and then forget about everything else. Do you have any advice for like kind of managing everything else as well?
Of course. And if it cuts off while I'm responding, we can talk about it after. But what I could suggest is, firstly, if you don't already do it, then are you writing down or setting alarms and reminders for the things that you need to get back to? So it tends to help when you write them down and you have a checklist. So that way you have reminders to return to the other things that you need to get to. And time blocking on your calendar helps so that you're seeing, like, let's say on Saturday, these are the things that I need to address. I know I'm going to spend time focusing on this. So it helps me. Oh, we got cut off.